Elon Musk just shocked the world with a live TV proposal to his girlfriend. But what happened next? No one saw it coming, and it went viral in minutes. Let's dive into the moment that had everyone talking.
It was a highly anticipated live interview with Elon Musk. Musk, dressed in his usual casual yet stylish way, sat across from the interviewer exchanging pleasantries. And then the moment came, a shift in the conversation. The interviewer, perhaps sensing Elon's unease, asked, "Elon, there's been a lot of speculation about your personal life recently. Care to share anything with us today?" A brief smile crossed Elon's face, one that left viewers puzzled. He paused, his eyes scanning. What Elon said next threw everyone off guard. "I've been keeping something very special to myself for a while now," Elon said, his voice steady but softer than usual. "Today, I'm going to share it with the world." He looked off stage, and for the first time, the viewers saw a woman standing just behind the curtain. She stepped forward hesitantly, her eyes wide as if she had had no idea what was about to happen. The viewers knew her face, but only as Elon's elusive girlfriend who kept a low profile. What no one expected was what Elon was planning to say next. The audience was dead silent, both at home and in the studio. The mystery woman walked onto the stage, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. She was beautiful, but in an understated way, graceful, elegant, and clearly someone who valued her privacy. For years, Elon had dodged questions about his relationship status, and now, right here on live television, the pieces were falling into place. Elon stood up, reaching out to her, guiding her toward the center of the stage. Her expression was a mix of confusion and nervous excitement, as though she hadn't been told about this sudden public appearance. The interviewer shifted in his seat, realizing this was no ordinary broadcast. The woman stood beside Elon, her eyes flickering between him and the crowd. Elon took a deep breath, and as the camera zoomed in on the couple, the world waited, eyes glued to their screens. "I've been blessed in many ways," Elon began, his voice filled with emotion, "with success, innovation, and the support of countless people." He paused, his gaze never leaving hers. "But none of that compares to what I'm about to say now." The woman's breath caught, her eyes locking onto Elon's, a wave of realization beginning to form in her mind. She had no idea this was coming, no one did. "I've been waiting for the right moment," Elon continued, his voice steady but with an underlying tremor of nerves, "and I realize there's no better moment than now." With that, Elon Musk, one of the most powerful and influential men in the world, slowly bent down on one knee. The crowd gasped. The studio audience, the crew, the interviewer, everyone was frozen in time, shocked by what they were witnessing. The camera zoomed in further, capturing the raw emotion on both of their faces. Elon looked up at her, his hand trembling slightly as he pulled out a small velvet box. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine vulnerability. For a moment, time stood still. Everyone was waiting for her response, but the look on her face showed that this wasn't part of the plan. What was she going to say? The silence was palpable. Elon's girlfriend, no, his potential fiancée, stood there, her eyes wide with shock, a mixture of emotions flashing across her face. She looked down at Elon kneeling before her on live TV, millions of eyes watching their every move. But instead of answering right away, she hesitated. The tension in the room grew thicker with every second that passed. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. The audience at home could almost feel her heart racing, her thoughts swirling as she stood frozen in the spotlight. Elon remained on one knee, waiting, his expression soft but with a hint of worry. He hadn't expected this reaction. He was Elon Musk, after all. Surely she would say yes, right? Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet but clear enough for everyone to hear. "Elon, this is unexpected," she began, her eyes darting between Elon and the crowd, clearly struggling with her emotions. The interviewer looked like he wanted to intervene, to break the tension somehow, but this was too big to interrupt. Everyone wanted to know what she was going to say next. "I mean, I love you," she continued, and Elon's expression softened slightly, but her voice trailed off, and the audience collectively leaned forward in their seats. "Oh, but what could possibly follow that? I don't know if I'm ready for this. Not here, not like this," she finally said, her voice trembling. The crowd let out a murmur of surprise. This wasn't the fairy tale ending anyone had expected. Elon stayed silent, his face betraying the slightest hint of surprise. He hadn't planned for this response. He'd been so sure, and now the whole world was watching as the moment took an unexpected turn. What would Elon do next? How would he handle this very public rejection? Or was it a rejection at all? The air was thick with suspense. Elon, still on one knee, hadn't moved. His girlfriend, no, his almost fiancée, stood there unsure of how to navigate this unprecedented moment. The audience was on the edge of their seats, waiting for something, anything, to break the silence. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to find the right words. Elon, you're incredible, and what we have, it's amazing, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But this is huge. I wasn't prepared for something like this. Elon finally stood up, slipping the velvet box back into his pocket, his expression calm, but clearly affected by her hesitation. I understand, he said, his voice low but steady. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like this. The crowd was silent, waiting to see what would happen next. The tension was unbearable. Would she walk off? Would she change her mind? The possibilities swirled in everyone's minds. Then something shifted in the air. She took a step closer to Elon, her eyes locking with his. I just need time to think, she said softly. This isn't a no, it's just I want to be sure, to be ready. Elon nodded, his face softening. I get it, he said, his voice gentle. Take all the time you need. For a moment, it seemed like the tension might ease, that everything would settle. But then she dropped another bombshell, one that no one saw coming. I've been thinking a lot too, she said, her voice growing stronger. About us, about the future, and there's something I need to tell you. The crowd murmured again, sensing that the drama was far from over. What was she about to reveal? What was it that she had been keeping inside all this time? The studio seemed to hold its breath as Elon's girlfriend, the woman who had just left millions hanging on her words, prepared to drop a truth bomb that no one had expected. Elon stood before her, his expression shifting from worry to confusion, trying to piece together what she was about to say. I've been keeping something from you, Elon, she said, her voice firm but filled with emotion, and I can't hold it in any longer. The audience leaned in closer, eyes glued to their screens as Elon stared at her, his face a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. He hadn't seen this coming. None of this was part of his plan. There's something I've been struggling with, something I've been scared to tell you, she continued, her voice trembling. But now I can't keep it to myself any longer. Elon took a deep breath, clearly trying to stay calm. What is it? He asked, his voice barely audible. She hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. I've been offered a job, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, she said, her eyes searching his for a reaction. And it's not here. It's across the world, in a different country. The audience gasped. Elon's face went pale for a moment, clearly taken aback by her revelation. A job? He repeated, his voice full of disbelief. This was the last thing he had expected to hear. Yes, she said, her voice growing stronger. It's something I've always dreamed of doing, but I didn't know how to tell you. I wasn't sure how you'd react. She paused, searching his face for a sign. And now, with you asking me to marry you, I didn't want to keep this from you anymore. Elon blinked, the words sinking in slowly. The entire world seemed to be holding its breath. His proposal, his public declaration of love, had taken a dramatic turn no one saw coming, and now the woman he loved was revealing a truth that could change everything. What kind of job? Elon asked, trying to stay composed, but the tension in his voice was clear. She bit her lip, hesitating. It's a position with an international organization, something that involves a lot of travel, working on projects in developing countries. It's something I've always wanted to do. The crowd murmured, and the interviewer, who had been silent for the past few minutes, leaned forward, intrigued by the unexpected direction the story had taken. Elon nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. And when do you have to leave? That's the thing, she said, her voice shaky again. The offer's already there. They want me to start next month. A pin-drop silence followed her words. Elon stood there processing everything. He had just proposed to her on live TV, and now she was telling him she might be leaving, possibly for good. The crowd, the viewers, everyone watching, felt the weight of the moment. For a few long seconds, no one spoke. Elon's girlfriend stood there looking at him, waiting for his reaction. The tension in the room was palpable. She had just dropped a life-altering bombshell, and everyone was waiting to see how Elon would respond. Elon took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. "Why didn't you tell me about this sooner?" he asked, his voice calm, but with a hint of pain. It was clear he hadn't anticipated this revelation, and the impact it had on his grand proposal was undeniable. "I didn't want to complicate things between us," she said softly, her voice laced with guilt. "I was scared of how you'd react. I didn't know if you'd understand." Elon looked down for a moment, collecting his thoughts. "I get it," he said finally. "You were scared, but this is huge. You're talking about a decision that could change everything." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know, and that's why I didn't want to say anything until I knew for sure what I wanted. But now, after you asked me to marry you, I knew I had to be honest." Elon stood silent for a moment, processing the weight of her words. The audience could feel the emotional struggle he was facing. His public proposal, his vulnerable moment, had just collided with her secret dream. The stakes were higher than anyone could have predicted. "So what now?" Elon asked, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Are you saying you're going to take the job and leave? Or are you saying you're not ready to marry me because of this?" His girlfriend wiped away a tear, her face a mix of sadness and uncertainty. "I don't know," she admitted. "I don't want to lose you, Elon. But I also don't want to give up on my dream." The tension in the room was thick. The interviewer remained quiet, knowing this was not a moment to interrupt. The viewers were glued to their screens, waiting to see how this love story would unfold. Was this the end of Elon Musk's romantic proposal, or was there more to come? Elon took a deep breath, looking at her with intensity. "You don't have to choose," he said finally. "We can figure this out together." Elon's words hung in the air, leaving his girlfriend speechless. The crowd, too, was taken aback. The world had just witnessed a man known for his control and determination show vulnerability and understanding. His girlfriend's eyes softened, her heart clearly touched by his response. "You mean that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're willing to work through this with me?" Elon nodded. "I love you, and I want to marry you. If that means figuring out how to make your dream and our relationship work at the same time, then that's what we'll do." A wave of relief washed over her face. She stepped closer to him, taking his hand. "I've never loved you more than I do right now," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You've just proven to me that this is real, that we can face anything together." The tension that had gripped the room for so long began to dissolve. The audience, who had been holding their breath for the past few chapters of this emotional roller coaster, began to relax. There was still uncertainty, but the love between Elon and his girlfriend was undeniable. "I'm not saying it's going to be easy," Elon added, squeezing her hand. "But I'm willing to fight for us, and if you're willing to do the same, then I think we can make this work." She smiled through her tears, her eyes full of love and hope. "I'm willing," she said softly. "I'm more than willing." The crowd erupted in applause, the tension replaced by a sense of triumph and joy. Elon pulled her close, wrapping her in a tight embrace as the cameras captured the moment. The interviewer, sensing the perfect time to end, stood up and thanked them both for sharing such an intimate part of their lives with the world. Elon's girlfriend leaned in close to him, whispering something in his ear that no one else could hear. Elon's eyes widened in surprise, and a smile spread across his face. "What did she say?" the interviewer asked, curiosity piqued. Elon turned to the camera, grinning. "She said yes." The crowd roared with excitement. What had started as a tense and emotional moment had transformed into a beautiful conclusion that no one had expected. Elon Musk had proposed to his girlfriend on live TV, and while her response wasn't immediate, her final answer left everyone speechless in the best way possible. It was a moment the world would remember for a long time, one that showed the complexity of love, dreams, and the sacrifices we make for both. And as the cameras faded to black, the world was left with a story that would inspire millions. Elon Musk's smile, now broad and genuine, lit up the entire studio. The tension that had filled the air throughout the broadcast dissolved, leaving only the raw emotion of the moment. The crowd continued to cheer, their excitement amplifying as they realized they had just witnessed history. Elon Musk's unforgettable, heartfelt proposal, his girlfriend, now visibly relieved and happy, leaned against him, holding his hand tightly as they stood together, united. The camera panned to show the audience, many of whom were wiping tears from their eyes. It was clear that this wasn't just a celebrity moment. It was a story of love, resilience, and compromise that everyone could relate to on a human level. The interviewer, finally sensing that the story had come to a satisfying conclusion, approached them with a warm smile. "This has truly been an incredible moment for all of us watching," she said. "Elon, you've shown the world a different side of yourself tonight, a side filled with love and vulnerability. Thank you for sharing this intimate part of your life with us." Elon, still holding his fiancée's hand, nodded graciously. "Thank you for giving us the space to do that," he said. "I wanted people to see that even in the most complicated moments, love can find a way." His fiancée smiled up at him, her eyes shining with the emotion. "I didn't expect any of this," she admitted, her voice soft. "But what I've learned tonight is that with the right person, you don't have to give up your dreams. You can find a way to have it all." The interviewer gave them both a knowing look. "So what happens next for you two?" Elon's fiancée took a deep breath before answering. "I'm still taking the job," she said, turning to Elon. "But we're going to make it work. It'll be tough, but we're both committed to this relationship, and that's what matters most." Elon squeezed her hand again, his smile never fading. "We'll figure it out together." The crowd applauded once more, their admiration for the couple growing with each passing second. It was clear that this was not just a media stunt or a celebrity spectacle. This was real love unfolding live in front of millions of people. As the final credits began to roll, the screen zoomed out, showing Elon and his fiancée walking off the stage hand in hand while the audience continued to cheer. The world had witnessed a proposal unlike any other, one filled with unexpected twists, emotional revelations, and ultimately, a deep and genuine love.